Hello and welcome to another informative edition of Business Africa. I am Afolake Oyinloye. The week's top stories in business include South Africa's government eyes nuclear energy as demand for power swells. Kenya maintains 10% benchmark interest rate. Central Bank of Central African States adopts measures to assist member countries. Rosatom Russian state nuclear agency recently submitted a bid for a nuclear power project under the South African government's proposed new nuclear plant. Now it is assumed that the project would help create 10,000 direct jobs, among other benefits. Jean-David Mahamli and Kenneth Karori reports.
South Africa's government is aiming to power its economy with nuclear energy, despite opposition from certain sections. The country's energy deficit is becoming a real threat to the competitiveness of the South African economy, as demand for power soars. Already, Russian state nuclear agency Rosatom has submitted a bid for nuclear power projects in the country. The company is among several firms bidding to build 9,600 megawatts of new nuclear power by 2030.
Most pressing risk, again, ladies and gentlemen, is facing us at the moment is the energy generation and Eskom in particular. We're concerned about the negative impact the electricity constraint is having on our growth and potential growth.
But the project has courted controversy, especially from South African conservationists.
The people here are feeling
no. So as far as Greenpeace is concerned, the decision to invest in nuclear is not a rational one. And it's not based on providing affordable, accessible electricity either.
For the time being, Eskom, which is a state-owned electricity company, is struggling to meet the growing electricity demand of the industry. With a capacity of 45,583 kilowatts, it can only supply 24,000 kilowatts. This has forced the mining industry to make do with frequent blackouts. The sector consumes about 15% of the country's electricity to drill deep into the earth and extract minerals that account for nearly 60% of South Africa's exports.
Thanks for staying with us. And now in news, Kenya's economy was said to be robust in the third quarter of 2016, but it still couldn't determine the impact of the government's decision to impose a cap on banks' lendings and deposit rates. Therefore, the Central Bank of Kenya has maintained the benchmark interest rates at 10%. Here is more from our newsroom.
Kenya's central bank has held its benchmark interest rate at 10% as concerns increased over a fragile global economy and weaker currency weighed by drought in the region. Year-on-year inflation fell to 6.4% in December from 6.7% in November, remaining within the government's target of 2.5 to 7.5%. While there are no demand pressure in the economy, the Central Bank of Kenya CBK said food inflation remains elevated due to unusual dry weather, with the food and electricity prices expected to remain elevated in near term. CBK said Kenya's economy was robust in the third quarter of 2016, but it still couldn't determine the impact of the government's decision to impose a cap on banks' lending and deposit rates as banks were reviewing their business models to improve their resilience in the new situation. Kenya's government imposed a limit for commercial bank lending in September of 400 basis points above the central bank rate. Economists say it risks hurting economic growth by discouraging lending to smaller borrowers deemed more risky. After a sharp fall in early January, Kenya's shilling has remained relatively stable in recent weeks, with the CBK say it was supported by a narrowing of the current account deficit to an estimated 5.5% of gross domestic product in 2016 from 6.8% in 2015. The shilling is currently trading at 104 to the US dollar, down 1.7% this year. In the third quarter, Kenya's economy grew by an annual rate of 5.7%, down from 6.0% in the second quarter, while the central bank's foreign exchange reserve declined to $6.936 billion from $7.305 billion as of last November.
We'll be taking you to Central African region, where central bank governors are keen to putting an end to the economic crisis. Details right after this break.